Hey everybody, this is Representative Wendell Jones. I hope you guys are doing good. I hope you are as excited as I am because this is going to be our first class in this Next Up series. This series of teaching I put together because you asked for it. It's all because of your feedback. Many of you have expressed your concern about our ability to build a bench. How are we going to prepare our leaders? How are we going to prepare our present leaders? How are we going to prepare our future leaders? So, hey, I'm going to step in the fire and put something out there. So, what I've done is created a series of classes for us to walk through to try to begin to give us some ideas and some just some nuggets on how to become the kind of leader our community needs and communities like ours need. We are in need of leaders. And I'm hoping that everybody who watches this accepts the responsibility of being a leader. Y'all, it's not designated for some special group of people. We all have been called to lead in some capacity or another. And I'm going to tell you this, we need all of you. We need everybody to make a decision that, hey, I'm going to do my part. And so we're going to kick this thing out and off rather with the first class, and it's entitled Introduction to Community Leadership. Why am I doing this? Because anybody that really knows me knows that I'm a teacher at heart. If you come to my church, you'll see that I teach. If you come to one of my classes that my business puts on, I absolutely love teaching. I'm going to tell you why. I love it because I feel an obligation to empower people. I don't want there to be just a select group of people who know how to do stuff. And I'm not one of those people who wants to hold all the power to himself or hold all the positions to himself. I want to equip as many people as possible to do this work. We have a lot of work to do. And so the more people that we have engaged, more people we have equipped, we can do a great deal of work. Why are we focusing on teaching first? Well, to be honest with you, um, this really takes us back into the civil rights approach. One of the things that Martin Luther King, who we just recently celebrated his birthday, one of the things that they did that was incredibly powerful, and it is still relevant today. They had a four-pronged approach to things that many of us don't talk about, and that four-pronged approach says: number one, educate. Educate the people about the issues of the day, because everybody does not know. Everybody doesn't have the same opportunity to learn the stuff, be exposed to the stuff that politicians and other leaders are exposed to. So it becomes our responsibility to educate. We've got to teach you what these things really mean, how they will impact you, and also teach us some techniques on how to protect our community. So the first thing is education. Then that leads to, here's what the leaders are supposed to do: conversation. Conversation is the next thing. Start to have conversations with the people who are in position to make these things happen. As a legislator, I've got to start having conversations with my peers on the Democratic side and on the Republican side, and all those other folks who have a say so in how our state is developed. Got to start having those conversations. So education, then conversation, which takes me back to education. Once I got to come back and tell you and educate you on what's going on. The third thing that we need to understand that the civil rights movement did an exceptional job is that's negotiation. Negotiations. They begin to negotiate. It is the job of your leaders to negotiate with those who are in positions of power, those who hold the keys to access, those who can say yes or no to some of these things that we're trying to accomplish. We got to begin to negotiate and have the ability to show them that giving greater access to my community and taking care of my community does in no way harms them, but actually brings up the entire community. And so we got to have those abilities and those skills to be able to negotiate. And if the negotiations don't go the way that we want them to go, then the last prong is protest. Then we protest. Then we bring about awareness to all folks about what we feel to be injustices that are taking place. And the purpose of the protest, guess what that is? To drive folks back to the table so we can start the negotiation again. Those four things keep working in a cyclical fashion. And so we're starting with education because we got to be skilled at this. I hope that makes sense to you. Who this program is for? It's for people who feel called to leadership in your community. It's for those of you who are already doing it, that feel like you can tune up your skills a little bit. But it's also to those who have been contemplating that or feel this call or this urge to get more involved. And this is going to help you frame some things. I'll admit to you, I don't look at this as being the end all be all. I don't. Some of you will disagree with some of my approaches to things. That's fine. That's fine. Here's my promise to you. I'll keep getting better. I'll keep studying. I'll keep getting better so that we can all get better. Who this program is not for is for those who don't feel like they need it. If you're already out there doing the work, God bless you, brother and sister. Keep doing the work. This program also is not for those who want to bring negativity to this platform. I have no problem with pushback. But given where we are right now and given what we're trying to do with this, my team and I are going to remove negative things that pop up on this because we are fighting from behind and we're playing catch up and we need unity more than anything. And here's a simple reason too. If you are coming onto my platform, that means you already have a platform. So by all means, sir, by all means, ma'am, if there's some things that you don't like about it, you feel free to use your own platform to do that. But on this one, we're going to focus on trying to move in a positive direction. And you're going to hear me speak about that in just a little bit. All right. So listen, if you're not able to sit through all of this, that's fine. We're going to keep this posted up and so you can go back and read it. Here's something, go back and listen at your leisure. Here's something I would suggest for you. If you got some friends, just someone who is just as passionate about you as working in their communities, sit down with them, get them to watch this with you so y'all can have a discussion afterwards. All right. And let me say this again. It's okay if you don't agree with everything I say. It's okay. But this is just our starting point. We have to start. We have to start with something so that we can continue to get better. All right. All right. Here we go. Let's jump into this introduction to community leadership. First slide teaches us about defining community leadership. All right. Here's what I need you to understand about this: the kind of leadership that our community needs has to always evolve, has to always change, be willing to change because the needs of our people change. And also the times change. Some methods that were useful in previous times may not be useful now. We have to always be willing to change our approach, but not surrender the goal. We're not going to walk away from the mission. We're not going to walk away from what we're trying to accomplish. It's just that how we go about it has to be open to change. Leaders understand that they have to evolve. Leaders understand they have to adjust to certain situations. So as you look on the screen there, let's walk through that a little bit. The first thing you see there on the left side, it says leadership aimed at making positive change. We're defining what a good community leader is. Is leadership aimed at making positive changes in a community. Positive changes, meaning that whatever we do, it ought to enable us to move forward. But let me add a word to that. It ought to enable all of us to move forward. True leadership is trying to bring everybody out together, everybody up together. It goes on to say, it says, this involves taking action. You got to do something. You can't just be a good talker. Taking action to address community needs, promote social and economic development, and improve the overall well being of the people. Let's break that down some more. We have to address the community's needs, which means you got to listen to the community's leads. You can't act like you got all the answers because you don't. You got to be open to hearing where the pain points are for the communities, because it's your job to try to come up or lead the community through coming up with solutions. You have to know how, when it comes to the community's needs, one of the toughest tasks that you got to do as a leader is to prioritize those needs, because we really can't do everything at one time. But when you learn how to prioritize those, you're trying to find the need that will provide the greatest uplift, the need that will impact or improve the lives of the most people in your community. That's your task. When it goes on to say promote social development, that simply means that we have to learn how to prioritize, put at the top of the list, working together. We've got to move away from being susceptible to being divided. Every faith, I know my faith says a house divided cannot stand, but I believe in every faith there's some type of quote that speaks to that. And I tell people oftentimes, we cannot be divided and play catch up. We have to fight to come together. So social development is us learning how to work together, and all of us policing that, all of us raising our hands when people are being divisive, and go, listen, we can't afford to do that. And even if somebody is considered to be divisive, we're not trying to just throw you away, because that defeats the purpose too. We're trying to convince you, let's work together. And maybe we can address that issue that you're most concerned about maybe a little bit later. But come over here and help us with what we have prioritized as the main thing, because you have talents, you have gifts, you are useful, you are valuable. And so we got to learn how to do that with each other, and not just be at odds, and not just throw people away. But we got to learn how to do this thing together. Because if we learn how to work together, then the other thing becomes possible, and that's economic development. The only way economic development comes about is when we learn how to work together. What is economic development? It's a ton of things. But listen, let's make it real simple. Economic development in the mind of a good leader is this: doing things that ensures that every household has a chance to come up. As a matter of fact, the word economics, the original meaning of the word economics, dealt with, listen to this, y'all, the management of a single household. So the economy does better when every household has everything that they need to sustain their lives and improve their lives. That's what we're supposed to do. You hear me talk about that all the time. Those are the bills I'm trying to propose. Those are the relationships I'm trying to make, to be able to bring some economic strength to the district, to bring up the individual, every individual household's income, give you opportunities to go back to school without having to pay a whole lot of money, so you can get certified, so you can take advantage of all these higher paying jobs. That's economic development. If we can get every household to do better, then our community looks more attractive to other investments, to restaurants and grocery stores and all that kind of stuff, because those folks are trying to see if we have extra income after we pay our bills to be able to support their stuff. And if they don't think we can support their restaurant or can support their grocery store, they're not going to come. But not only that, when we start to do better in every individual household, then that begins to spark small businesses. And then we begin to have extra money to build, take that side hustle and turn it into an established business. And then the community, when we learn how to really foster group economics, we circulate our extra amongst ourselves, and we empower ourselves. Our independence is determined by our economic strength. We got to get stronger economically. We got to make some more money. We got to learn how to keep that money in the community by reinvesting it into our neighbors and those who are stepping out to do things, build things. We support one another. We learn from one another. And then all of us begin to build up, come up together. That's what a leader has to be obsessed with in our community, that every household is given the opportunity to do bigger and better things. That's that first one. I stayed on that part a little long, didn't I? But we got to get that to improve the overall well-being of our people. Address local issues effectively. Community leaders identify and address the unique challenges and concerns of the local people working collaboratively to provide practical solutions. We have unique challenges. We do have some things that are happening in every community, but we also got some unique things. And so, what we are being asked to do, that says you got to create a plan. You got to create a plan. You got to execute that plan. You got to be willing to tweak that plan, admit, humble yourself, and admit when your plan ain't working and your idea wasn't right. That doesn't mean that it's over, leader. It just means we got to tweak it. We got to adjust it. We got to adjust the plan because stuff around you is always changing. So what you thought would work may now have run up against something that's making it harder to work. And so we just got to come up with another creative way. But we're still not going to surrender the goal. We're not going to surrender the goal of bringing up every household income. We may have to find a new way to do it. That's how you really deal with the local issues effectively. Effectively means you do what you set out to do. You got to have that kind of determination and drive. Down here in the left corner, it says to build stronger, cohesive communities. We've been hitting on that, and I guess you're going to hear it over and over again from me. Cohesive means we are tied together. We realize this. That we are connected no matter what. No matter how you feel about somebody personally, we still connected. And so we've got to figure out how to overcome our differences and focus on what we have in common, focus on the desire that we all share, which is to build better communities for our children and our children's children. And so we can get past ourselves and find that common ground to work on, because in order for us to come from the position that we are in economically and socially, we have to work together. And as a leader, you cannot be part of the problem. You cannot be trying to divide people. Listen, as you look around at our political climate nowadays, you realize that division sells. It does. And division can cause you to win election as long as you get your group, your base of people. But they don't tell you is that once people are in office, then they begin to realize, well, we really need everybody to work together to make this thing happen. And that's hard to do once you have branded yourself as somebody who's divisive. We got to start out the gate with saying that this is our code of conduct. This is how we conduct ourselves in this community. We find a way to stick together. And not just when terrible things happen. We stick together when we are inspired to do good things. You saw how we came together when Helene came through, and everybody forgot about their differences, and we all got together and worked together. But for us to build the communities that we want, that has to be part of who our nature is. That has to be, again, hear me, a code of conduct that we all police and we all take very personal. Take it very personally that we're supposed to be together, because when we do that, what we'll end up doing is having a more resilient and supportive environment. You see that at the end of that statement? Resilient means we have the ability to bounce back. Because from time to time, something's going to happen that's going to throw us for a loop like we're going through right now. But because we stick together, we will bounce back. And we also allows us to create a supportive environment. That's the thing that we've got to remember, that we need each other, and we're going to help each other be successful. And the last thing you see there on the right side, a real leader empowers individuals to contribute and take responsibility. Community leaders inspire and encourage community members to actively participate in the decision-making process, take ownership of local issues, and contribute to the betterment of the community. In simple terms, a real leader, the kind of leader we need now, the leaders we need now. We don't need one, we need a lot. The leaders we need now are people who don't want all the power to themselves. People who aren't trying to be a star and the go-to person for everybody. This leader wants to inspire and encourage everybody to find their lane, for everybody to figure out what you're good at. What can you bring to the table? Take off running. Let's go. And we got your back. We're going to support you. We're going to work together. We need as many people like that. That's what that is saying. Real leaders give people room to do their thing. Sometimes you see people want to hoard everything to themselves because they feel important that way. No, no, no. Real leader says, a real leader will ask, tell me what you're good at. You want to do that? Well, let me help you be good at that. Let me open the door so you can do that part in this big old scheme that we're trying to pull off. That's the kind of leader that we need. Take ownership of your part of the problem and go make it happen. And imagine that if everybody's moving in the same direction, just covering their own lane, we get so much more done quicker. And then we get to reap the benefits as a corporate, as a collective, much sooner. That's what real leadership is supposed to do. And that's the kind of leadership we need now from all of us. Not just me, from all of us. All right, let's keep going. Again, if you miss something, hit rewind. I need to make sure we all got this. So why are we been talking about this? Why is this important? Understanding the kind of leadership we need right now. Here it is. The first one is that this kind of leadership has the ability to build trust and collaboration. Community leaders foster open communication, encourage shared decision making, and bring diverse perspectives together to build strong, trusting relationships within the community. Yeah. The place where we are right now, let's be honest, we've gone through so much, and there's been an effort to make us not trust one another. Because if we ever trust one another, we are going to be a force to be reckoned with. Now, trust is tricky. Trust is hard to build, but easy to lose. If you're going to be a community leader, you don't have to get everything right. You don't have to win every time. But in order for you to create trust, which does take time to build, in order for you to create trust, you got to be a man or woman of integrity. That means your words and your actions match. Your words and your actions match. Now, that does not mean you cannot change, because we ought to have an expectation of our leaders to change because they are growing. But when you are growing, you have to admit that, hey, maybe I didn't understand this thing like I thought I did. Maybe I got this wrong. Good leaders will admit when they get something wrong. And so I've learned some stuff, and now I've changed my position on it. I'm not flip-flopping, as they like to say in politics. I'm growing. But your integrity should cause you to tell us. You got to say it. And so we can now hold you to that. And again, as I said, when you grow, announce that you have grown as well. And so, and once the leader does that, then it teaches everybody else how to trust. And until we trust, we can't do that other word, collaborate. We cannot come together with people we don't trust. We cannot. If you are untrustworthy for whatever reason, it's hard to work with you. And we need everybody to feel like we're on the same page. We don't always agree. We don't have to agree on everything to be trustworthy, but we got to be honest. And we got to be able to trust what you said. We got to be able to give you some responsibility and know you're going to handle it. And if you run into problems, you're not going to hide it. You're going to come back and tell everybody, I'm struggling. And then we come together and collaborate and help. But that's what we've got to have. As a leader, you have to demonstrate that. You have to be the example of that. The other thing says there in the middle says, create a sense of ownership and accountability. That's how our world is supposed to work. A real leader encourages everybody to own it. Don't just pick a leader and then you go back to doing whatever you want to do. We are all involved in this. Let me finish reading this. It says, by actively engaging community members, leaders inspire a shared sense of responsibility. We share the responsibility, y'all, and we share the ownership. We gotta own this in our hearts so that one day we'll own everything physically, because the economic development that we just talked about is driving us to a place of ownership. We own our homes, we own the corner block, we own the buildings, we own the commercial properties, we own the stores, and so we're economically strong. We're able to take care of ourselves and one another. But before there can be this physical manifestation of ownership that looks like houses and stores and businesses, we have to own it in here. This is my community. And it's got to be more than something on a t-shirt or a sweatshirt or something that we yell. It's got to be something that's reflected in our activities. It's got to be something that's reflected in our words. It's got to be something by which we fight for unity. And we get upset when people try to divide us, whether it be somebody within the community or especially somebody outside of it. We own this, and we own the future of it so that our babies can have something nice. It goes on to say, ensuring that everyone takes an active role in addressing local challenges. Leader wants everybody to be a part, wants everybody to show up at meetings, want everybody to make phone calls and send emails, want everybody to do their part, want everybody to get as much education as they possibly can, want everybody to fix your credit so we can all begin to own some stuff, want everybody to try to raise their level of income so that the whole community gets to be blessed by that. So our schools get to be blessed by that. So our babies have the stuff that they need, all of the stuff so that we take control of our destiny. We become self-sufficient and we take control of it, which keeps us from being at the mercy of others who aren't a part of our community. Does that make sense? And that does not divide. Listen, let me say this. That's not us being divisive or dividing us from the community at large, because here's the reality. The community at large, the big Greenville County or wherever you are, it is made up of several pockets of communities. There's not one singular economy. There's not one singular community. It is a collection of different communities. And together we define the wealth and prosperity of an area. I hope that makes sense to you. Listen, and we need everybody involved because let's be honest, I know this quite well, very well now, that this thing that we're trying to lift, this heavy lifting, is too heavy for one person. This is a team sport. Life is a team sport. God said it wasn't good for Adam to be alone. God said it's not good for you to be alone. You cannot do this thing by yourself. Politics is a team sport. All of us, you might elect one person, but we all have to show up and fight still. That elected official goes to be the voice of the representative, but that person still needs to be able to look over his or her shoulder and know I've got 43,000 people in my district behind me saying we need this to happen. I got the 18,000 people registered to vote behind me, and I know they're behind me because they show up at the polls and our numbers match that when it comes time to vote, because the folks who are seeking to oppose your progress check those numbers out. And if they see that we got single-digit people participating in politics, it's hard to take the elected official seriously. That elected official has to work that much harder to prove themselves to be worthy of getting somebody's attention. Don't put that on your elected official. Let the people see that this community is saying or demanding we need our share. If we got to pay into it like everybody else pays into it, we need our share coming back to our community. We need appropriations coming back to our community. We need the tax dollars that are being spent for improvements and infrastructure. We need that coming back to our community. We need access to capital so we can grow our businesses. We need to have, especially if the businesses are in our community, we really think we ought to have first right of refusal for these new jobs that are coming so that we can the community around the organization can be benefited first. And truth be told, businesses realize it makes more sense to employ people that are within a 5-mile radius from their business because turnover rate goes down, absenteeism goes down. They know that. Those are the conversations that I'm reminding the Lockheeds and the 3Ms of the world are, and they are getting it. And they want to see District 25 flourish. They do. Same thing's true for those of you who are watching who aren't in my district. The same stuff applies, period. Do it in your district too. The last thing it says, drives impactful solutions to local challenges. Yeah. Leaders have to be people Well, let me read the rest of it. It says community leaders leverage, they leverage their knowledge, resources, connections to identify, develop, and implement effective solutions that address the unique needs and priorities of their local community. In simple terms, it says this, that as leaders, you got to know how to take care of your relationships. And you got to know how to build relationships. You got to know how to build relationships outside of your community. You got to know how to build good relationships with people who don't look like you. And in some cases, well, not in some cases, in a lot of cases, you're going to have to learn how to build relationships with people who don't think like you. And you got to be able to convince them that even though they look different and live somewhere else, we are still intertwined, we're still connected. And you got to be able to convince those relationships that it benefits them to help support what's going on in your community. That's called leveraging your relationships. You got to be able to leverage your knowledge. You got to be known. You got to become known for being good at something. Right now, I'm immersing myself in understanding affordable housing, and I'm starting to build a reputation of that. I'm immersing myself. My background is economics, from being a finance major to being a commercial banker to doing the things I've done as an entrepreneur, and so people are starting to respect that on both sides of the aisle. And I'm invited to sit in on discussions. I'm invited to be a part of ad hoc committees. Why do I load my plate up with all that responsibility? Because I'm going to use those relationships for my community. That's what I'm trying to build. And I want you to know you got to do the same thing. So you got to bring people who you've convinced to be somewhat like-minded and utilize their resources, their relationships to help benefit the people that you represent. I hope that makes sense. You look at the summary at the bottom, it says, in summary, community leadership is essential for building strong, resilient, and thriving communities. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to thrive. We've survived long enough. We've just gotten by long enough. As lofty as it may seem, and some people may think it's pie in the sky, I'm accused of that, of being pie in the sky sometimes. But if you're going to be a visionary, which all leaders need to be, you need to really start thinking about the possibilities of things. You need to think about the stuff that people thought we'd never be able to do. I believe we can. I just do. I believe that if anybody else has ever done it, why can't we? Why can't we? All we got to do is figure out what they've done, duplicate it, and make it happen. And that's the kind of leadership we need. And that's the kind of leader I believe you are. That's why I'm glad you're tuning in. All right, let's go to the next one. One of the things as a leader you've got to do, as you see from the slide, is understand your strengths. Or in other words, know yourself. You need to know yourself. So in the first one there on the left, it talks about self-awareness is the foundation of effective leadership. Know yourself. Know what your strengths are. It goes on to say, understanding your own strengths and the weaknesses and abilities is crucial for becoming a successful leader. Self-awareness allows you to play to your strengths and address your weakness. Let me caution you. Don't try to be everything to everybody, because you'll fail at that every time. Realize what you're strong at, and then put yourself in position to work your strengths. You serve the people, and you will serve the people in the best manner when you serve from a place of strength. You're not good at everything. I'm not. Nobody is. You actually know to some degree what you're really not good at. You know what your weaknesses are. Don't put yourself in a position where you rely upon your weakness when you're leading. And see, when you realize you're weak, that's when it should open your heart to start collaborating with people. Bring people along. There is somebody who's good at what you're not, right? Let them be good at it and link arms with them. You know what your skill set is. You're learning what your skill set is. And I'll even go as far as to tell you there's more in there too. There's more strengths in there that you haven't even discovered. But those things are manifest. They'll start to pop out once you say yes to what your call is in life. But please understand that about yourself. And then where those weaknesses are concerned, work on those. Don't lead with those. Work on those. Here's why. Because what can happen sometimes is your weakness can sabotage all your good stuff. Your weaknesses can give you a bad reputation because they keep flaring up. You can't just ignore them. Work on them. Get therapy. Get counseling. Get a good friend that you can tell the truth to. Get a tutor. Get a mentor. Get somebody to help you build that area up, especially if you know that, man, that thing right there could cause me to blow all of this. But we're not waiting. Listen, listen, listen. We're not waiting for you to be perfect. We're waiting on you to be available because you already got some strengths. So lead through your strengths. Announce what your strengths are so people can understand what to call on you for. Learn to say no when people are asking you to do something you know you're not good at, but don't be afraid to say yes to the things that you are good at. The next thing gets a little deeper. It starts talking about SWOT analysis. That's an acronym. The S is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Normally, people say that when you're trying to look at your business, look at your ministry, look at something you're responsible for. But I'm going to ask you to look at yourself where that's concerned. Write down what your strengths are and try to shape your life around them. Write down what your weaknesses are and try to get help for those. Write down where your opportunities, that if you actually work your strengths, you can take advantage of these opportunities. Write those down, but also write down those threats. Those things that, man, if this happens, this could hurt me. If this pops back up in my life, this could hurt me. That way you know yourself. To thine own self be true. Know you. Know you. Okay? Lead with the strengths. Get some help with the weaknesses. Work on those. Opportunities, let's go get them. Let's seize them. Threats, let's put things in place to try to keep those things away from us. Boundaries. Let's tell a good friend, like, keep that away from me. Tell somebody you can trust, keep that away from me. Know that about yourself because you as a leader are too important for us to get in the middle of a thing and then the bottom falls out because you didn't protect yourself from your threats and your weaknesses. Make sense? All right. The last thing, leveraging your strengths enhances leadership effectiveness. I've been kind of alluding to this the whole time. By focusing on your strengths and leveraging them, you can amplify your leadership skills and make a greater impact. Let's focus on what you're good at. Quit getting caught up in what you're not. We do that too much, y'all. We keep worrying about what we're not good at, and we still go try to build it up while we put our strengths on the sideline. No, we need you now. We need your contribution now. You need your contribution now because you know what you're running out of? Time. You're getting older. You're running out of time. And nobody knows when this is going to be our last day. So you need to be working through your strengths and getting some help and being humble. Let those weaknesses keep you humble so you're still teachable. You're still willing to let somebody correct you. Still willing to let somebody pour into you because no leader is perfect. We're not asking you to be perfect. We're asking you to be available. We're not asking you to be perfect. We're asking you to be available. We're asking you to show up in your strengths. Recognizing and harnessing your unique abilities because you're unique. Nobody's like you. And we need that. Your unique abilities empowers you to lead with confidence and inspire your team. It allows you to lead with confidence. That word confidence, you look at the etymology of the origin of the word confidence, it means to walk with faith. When you start to think about and walk out through your strengths, leaders, your faith goes up. Your faith in you, your faith in your God, your faith in your opportunity, your faith in your community. You start to walk in faith. That's what we need from you. Not walking in fear because you keep obsessing over your weaknesses. We're not asking you to lead through those. We ask you to lead through those things that have been developed, those things that have been fine-tuned. And you walk with confidence with that. And when you do that, you inspire others. That word inspire literally means to breathe life into. You will breathe life into others. You'll make others decide, man, I need to get off the sideline. I need to do my part because that's my brother over there. I know my brother. I've been with him all my life. I know he ain't perfect, but he's really good at that. He's working what he's good at. You'll make other people go live. That's what we got to make happen. That's what a leader does. That's the kind of leader we need right now. And I know that's who you are. Developing self-awareness and understanding your strengths are essential steps in becoming an effective leader. By utilizing tools like the SWOT analysis, I told you, write down your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities and threats, and capitalize on your strength. Promote your energy behind your strengths. You can elevate your leadership abilities and drive positive outcomes for your team and organization. You can do that. The organization we're talking about, District 25. The organization we're talking about, your particularly your community within the district. And for those of you outside of the district, just because I keep speaking to my people does not mean that you can't apply this to yours. These are universal truths. They'll apply. They will work for anybody who applies. All right. All right. Let's hit the next one. Now we're going a little deeper talking about you, where you got to explore your leadership style. I'm going to say this out of the gate. The three things I'm going to talk about as a leader, you got to be able to do all three. And you got to know when to do them. You got to be able to do all three, and you got to know when to do them. Number 2 talks about being a transformational leader. And it says leaders who inspire and motivate their followers to achieve greater goals, driving positive change within the organization. So this part of you is your ability to cast vision. This is the part of you that's able to make people or paint a picture for the people of the possibilities of things, how good it can be, how good it should be, how good it's going to be for their children and their grandchildren if we do the work today. You have to be that kind of leader that can communicate and paint pictures for people so they can begin to envision themselves in a better world, in a better community, in a better city. That's what you got to do. That's that big thing. That's when you begin to talk to the people. You got to constantly take them back to the big picture of what you're trying to accomplish, which means you got to believe it, which means you got to see it. If you're able to do that, then you're able to convey that to other people. Now, as part of your leadership role, you also there is a transactional component to it. You see, that's the next thing there. Sometimes when you hear that with leadership, you think that's a negative. It's really not a negative because there is a transactional component to all leadership. It says here on your screen, there's leaders who focus on setting goals, setting clear goals, establishing structures, and rewarding or disciplining the team members to achieve desired outcomes. What this is saying is that we're not coming together just to have a good time. We're coming together to make something happen. In order to make something happen, we've got to have clear goals. We got to have smart goals. We're going to touch on that in just a second. You got to be crystal clear on what it is that we're trying to make happen. And we got to be able to measure it as we move along to make sure we're actually making some progress. And that's transactional. Here's the big picture. To make the big picture under the transformational part, there's the big picture. But to get to the big picture, we got to have these little bitty things that we accomplish. And those little bitty things along the way are transactional. And you got to hold people accountable. You got to hold yourself accountable. And you get this, you got to let the people hold you accountable because you're not above that. Everybody has to commit. And we're bringing everybody to the table and we're telling everybody that they're leaders. Everybody's accountable. Everybody's got a job to do. That's your leadership style. That's what you got to communicate. All right. And then the third one is so important, and that's the servant leader. The danger of the transactional part, and it's in there. The danger of the transactional part is that we can end up treating people like projects and not people. That all we want to do is crack the whip and say, make it happen, get this done. No. A real leader understands, yes, I gotta push you to make things happen, but I can't forget that you're a person. And that's what the servant leader is doing. The leaders who prioritize the needs and the development of their followers, empowering them to reach their full potential and contribute to the organization's success. You got to remember you're dealing with a person. You got to remember, and you got to get to know your people and know what they want out of life and know why they connected to you. Everybody's coming because there's something that they expect. And you need to know what that is. And you want to try to make sure that they get their needs met too. While we're trying to take care of the needs of everybody else, you, as a good leader, you don't lose sight of the fact that your people working right alongside of you got families, got hurts, got fears, got concerns. You need to know what those things are too. And get this, leader. The organization, the big picture, the big movement will work better the healthier your people are, the more fulfilled your people are. So you can't neglect the people who are willing to show up with you. You got to make sure that they are feeling empowered, that they're feeling at their best. They feel like they're in the right place. They feel like they're appreciated. Makes them a better person, and we get more done. You got to be able to do all three of those. That last box says you got to be flexible, which means you got to be able to move through all three based on what the situation requires. The situation, you might be trying to make sure we're meeting goals, but you begin to discern, or even just be told by somebody, man, I'm going through. You cannot stay in transactional mode. You got to switch to servant mode and take care of that human being. Take care of them. And you know what's going to happen? Some days they're going to have to do the same thing for you. I promise you. As the leader, you will get beat up. You're going to get beat up. And you're going to want your team to understand this about you, that it's that he or she is not just a cause, they are a person with feelings, who get tired, who get offended, who get hurt. And sometimes your team's going to have to build you back up so you can go back on the battlefield. You got to know how to do all of these, guys. By understanding and applying a range of leadership styles, leaders can effectively navigate diverse organizational challenges and foster a thriving, engaged team. You got to be all those things. All right. What's next? The notion of setting goals. I talked about that a few minutes ago. We're not going to stay here very long. But your goals, we got to learn how to do goals. Got to be clear goals that provide focus and motivation. People can get something done when you're clear. And so you got to learn how to talk in clear terms. Clearly defined goals give you a sense of direction and purpose, helping you stay motivated and on track to achieve your desired outcomes. If you're saying we need to contact, from January to March, here's a clear goal. We're going to contact in District 25, 75 households and tell them about ABC. That's a clear goal, 75. And so that thing can be broken down in 25, 25, 25. So by the end of January, you can assess whether or not we're making progress. Or we can try to figure out a better way to make more progress without giving up on hitting 75. It's clear. And when you tell your people 75, they got a purpose. They got a sense of purpose. We know what we got to do. It also gives them room to come up with creative ways themselves. You ain't got to come up with all of it. All they know is they got to hit 75 and let them turn their ingenuity on. Let them turn their creativity on to figure out how we do it. And it'll be amazing. Now, once you give them room to do that, give them room to work in their gifts, they can own it. And it also makes them motivated because they're not just being dictated to. They also have given room to grow into the position and grow into the responsibility. That's what we got to do. And they come out of that having accomplished the goals, but also the most important part, they've grown and they've developed. And so, see, SMART goals goals ensure clarity and achievability. You don't give them some type of goal that you know they can't reach. Help them win. We gotta have some wins along the way, because we're gonna be running up against so much that's gonna cause us or try to make us feel defeated. You as a leader can't keep setting them up for failure. And so we got to be realistic while also stretching a little bit. But you want your people to win. But also as a leader, you got to set your own personal goals through which you lead yourself, and also the community goals at large. Yeah, we can do this. We got to do this by setting clear, smart goals and aligning them with both personal and community oriented objectives. You can position yourself for long-term success and make a meaningful impact on your surroundings. That's what we're aiming to do. All right. I believe we're coming up on the last slide. Just leaving you with this quote. Community leadership is about empowering people to make a difference and create positive change in their local community. If you see that, what that is, leader, is saying you are giving your power to the people. You are showing people that they are powerful themselves. Not that they got to rely on or wait on any one individual, that we are the people that we have been waiting on. And you want to prove to them that they matter, that they can make a contribution to this thing, but also to reinforce to them that we need everybody to show up for the game. Everybody's got to be on the field. It is a team approach, and we got to be united, and we got to have a code of conduct that says we stick together and that we hurry up and stamp out any divisive tactics. We're not here to beat anybody up. We're not here to exclude people. We can't be asking the world for inclusion and then we don't include each other. We can't ask the world for diversity if we can't handle a diversity of opinions and thoughts. We got to be the thing that we're demanding of others. And it starts with you, leader. It starts with you. All right. Got the first class in the books. Go back and watch it again. Take some notes. What we're gonna do, we're probably gonna I'm gonna put something out there so you kind of test your knowledge of it. Um, and then we're gonna do something at the end of this. We might can all come together and just celebrate this, come together in person. Would y'all like that? I think that might be a good thing for us to do. And let me say this. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. Thank you for taking the time to hear my heart. I love us. I love us. And I do this because I love us. I could be selfish and just focus on me and mine. But I can't unsee what I've seen. I can't unhear what I've heard. I believe I got some things to contribute. I don't have all the answers. That's why I need you. Um, but together, man, we can do this thing. I know it feels like we got our back against the wall, and to be honest, it feels like it to me too. But I don't feel no ways tired to the extent that I'm gonna throw up my hands. You know why? Because I love my children. And I want them to have a better world. And one day they might make me a papa. And I want my children's children. I want my church members. I want my neighbors. I want you. I want you to have a better life. And if that's me trying to act like I'm MLK, like some have accused me of, or if that's me having wishful thinking, so be it. Say what you will. I'm not going to let go of this heart of mine for my people. And I'm not going to let go of this big vision and believing that we can do this. I can't let it go. I can't. And I'm glad you're willing to take this journey with me. All right. I'm going to let you go. And like I always do when I close out whenever I teach. Till next time, much love.